Oh, I got to turn on the screen now. Why is this not like? There we go.
That's like you're not doing those squats.
I guess.
You're thinking out loud, right?
Okay.
Quick question, do you go over strategy pyramids in either of your classes?
Strategy pyramids. What strategy pyramid are you talking about, Stephen?
Never mind. I guess that's a no.
No.
Huh?
Okay. So, what I want you to be, what I want you to know about competitors is similar in some ways to what I want you to know about customers. Just slightly different format. So, first thing is that your competition may vary by segment. So, if we look at the Condors project as an example, you know, I, as a sort of middle-aged single professional, my alternative competitive products are, like I said last week, going to a bar or going out to live music. The competitive product for a family with kids of 10 years old is probably a different competitive product. Same thing for students on campus here. So competition is going to be different depending on your segment. You also want to think about substitutes, and that's a great example from the Condors again. You know, the product that is competing with the Condors is not another sports event for me. It's a substitute product of other entertainment that I could be doing for the evening. So perhaps for Potty Boss, I wouldn't be surprised if the competitor were actually other things you can spend money on your kids on. You know, like I imagine a lot of people that we end up approaching about the project are not going to have another. There are some products out there on the market that are similar to the Potty Boss product. They're not quite as good a quality, but they're so obscure and not well known that I imagine most people are not going to be familiar with the product. However, they might just sort of say, you know, I can do without this. I don't go out very often to strange places. I think I'll just spend this on, you know, more decoration for the nursery, or more decoration for the kids' room. I think your competitive product for Potty Boss is probably going to be a substitute. And excuse me, you know, the edible garden. It all depends on which part of the garden. You know, eventually we're going to have the garden is going to provide free food or cheap food for people on campus. So the competition, I guess, for that is other sources that you could get for free and cheap food. But there's also ways that we're going to use the garden as a destination for events. So in that case, it would be other places where you can host an event. So really, all the competition for the garden as well is substitutes rather than there's no. It's not like the CSU Long Beach Community Garden is going to be the competitor for the CSUB Community Garden. And I guess in some ways there's other community gardens around town. So there's a really nice one at Buena Vista Elementary School that is really good, but it is less space than what we're going to have, and I don't think they focus as much on community events. So whether it's a direct competitor or not, I don't think it is so much. But important to think about substitutes. What do you need to know about the competition? First of all, as far as the specific product or service that they're offering, first of all, just general impressions about what kind of image does the company give off? What sort of look and feel does that competitive product have? I want to know details about the features and benefits. So, what does it do? What is it capable of? A lot of times, that's going to be sometimes significantly different because we're talking about a substitute product than what your product or service does. I want to know about promotions that are going on. I want to know about pricing and about what advertising media the competitor is using. And that is very similar to the same things that I wanted to know about beta customers when we talked about customer outreach last week. The place where the competitor profile differs is I want to know about the major strengths and weaknesses of that competitor. So a lot of times with small business, your competitor is going to have more of an existing customer base than you do. They're probably going to have more financial resources than you do. And they may or may not have expertise in a certain product niche or a service niche. So I want you to be very cognizant of what is it about your competition that makes them better than you. And then this very last point here, how do you plan to differentiate yourself from the competition? So it's very important in any business, but certainly in running a small business, it's very important to understand exactly how are you different and better than the competition. If you can't articulate that, you're going to have a really hard time selling products and building your business. So those are the things I want to know about competitors. I want them to kind of be organized in this format. This is an example of a project group that I had back at University of Cincinnati a couple of years ago that was building a real estate brokerage firm. So one of their competitors was a company named Everest. You can see here they've listed the specific service that they offer, kind of their image, features, the particular thing that I like about this is that they decided they were going to focus on shared services that they can offer to small businesses, something that Everest wasn't doing at all. It's a very good articulation there at the bottom of the page on what is different about their product as opposed to what the competition does. I've actually got a webinar that I want to play for you guys that describes a lot of things on this page better than I can. There's how many people here are familiar with the fact, for example, if you put in a minus sign in a Google search, it will take out every page that, well, you saw that already, but people that weren't in my other class, how many people realize that if you put a minus sign into a Google search, whatever word comes after that minus sign, Google will exclude every page that has that in its search results? So, yeah. So if, for example, I'm going to try this. I'm going to try this live because that's actually a faulty part of the webinar. So let's search on entertainment Bakersfield. Okay, so what have we got here? Top 10 things to do. How about this Bakersfield Night Out? So let's say that we don't want the website bakersfieldnightout.com. So if you type in Entertainment Bakersfield and then you type in minus bakersfieldnightout.com, you'll notice that the search results are different now, and I believe you will see that nowhere in here is that website anymore.
Best adult entertainment in Bakersfield, California.
That was not necessarily what I was looking for, but you'll notice without the minus sign, this is what we got. With the minus sign, and probably what happened is each of these, the Edwards, Camelot Park, and the Convention Bureau, somewhere on that website is a reference to bakersfieldnightout.com. And because somewhere on that page is the phrase bakersfieldnightout.com, if I put in minus, it takes out every page that has that phrase in it. So it's a good way to narrow down your search results and get things out of the way that you don't want in your search results. There's a number of other great tips on how to do Google searches, in particular at this digital trends. Actually, the life hack one is good too. I'm going to open up the life hack one right now. But I've given you links to 4 different places where there's a lot of good tips on how to do more effective Google searches. So using the tabs, using quotes, hyphen to exclude words. That's what I just meant about the minus. If you put site : and then whatever website you want to search, Google will actually only search within that website for whatever you're looking for.
So it's like a control F.
Sort of. That's cool. 20 other tips here so if you want to find pages that link to another page, you type link : and then you'll find pages that are referring to another page. So good way to find competitive information sometimes. Good way to find who are the customers or suppliers of your competition. Great little tips here on how to do effective Google searches. Let me go ahead and play a webinar for you quick that describes a lot of this stuff particularly well on how to do. Yes, Daniel.
I think on Google you can actually drag and drop an image into the search bar and it'll actually search for that image now too.
Really? Man, they are amazing.
Yeah. Kind of like if you want to search for a logo.
Uh-huh.
Pretty useful.
Oh, totally useful. I had not heard that yet. Okay, so there's a couple of particular databases that you can use to search for competitive information on competitors that are very, very small. A lot of times in small business, your competition are other small businesses, excuse me, that are hard to find information on because they're not public, they're not very big, you don't know much about them at all. So I've got a brief webinar here to show you on how to find information on competitors. So let me go ahead and pull that up quick. Okay, so for my next webinar, I want to go over just a couple things about
Yes, you're okay?
doing competitor research on both LexisNexis and Google. Again, I went through this stuff in class, but I'm not quite satisfied that I got to the level of detail that I wanted to. So just a couple things here.
I'm going to use the example of a project that I had in my small business management class last quarter. Had several students working on finding more customers for Coconut Joe's restaurant and bar in Bakersfield. So one of the things that we want to do when figuring out the competitor profile is find as much as we can on both the size and the contact information, who actually is involved in working for this competitor, and then secondly, just looking for all kinds of information on Google. So LexisNexis is actually a great resource for finding some baseline information about how big a competitor is, both in terms of employees and revenues, finding some basic contact information, figuring out the names of some of the people that work there, and sometimes you can find some interesting information about their credit history as well. So first of all, we'll go to the library website for Cal State Bakersfield. Go to the library there, and then articles and databases. I'm going to sort these by title so that we can find the letter L easily. Go down here and click on LexisNexis.
Yes. Oh, I thought you said professor rather than bless you. Got it.
Now, the first thing you want to do is actually go to Advanced Options, and go down to Content Type, deselect all of these, and then just select Company Profiles and click Apply. Then you're going to go in and type the name of whatever competitor. So in the case of Coconut Joe's, one possible competitor for them is the Steak and Grape, another restaurant and bar in Bakersfield. So we're going to type in Steak and Grape in quotes so that we don't get every company that has either the name Steak or the name Grape in their title. We're just going to type that in quotes and then click Search. And you'll notice we got two results here, one from Zoom Company and one from Experian. If we click on the Zoom Company one, open that up. Working on a slow internet connection today, so it's taking a little while. You'll notice we've got the basic address information, we've got the phone number, we've got the website address. For larger competitors, this isn't all that useful information, but a lot of times when you're looking at a very small niche competitor, you can actually find their contact information here. You can also find how many employees they have. In this case, according to Zoom Company, it's 12. You can see their revenues, which is about $2.4 million. You can see a tiny bit of a description. Sometimes these descriptions are bigger, sometimes they're smaller. And that's about all we got from Zoom Company. But at least we got some basic information on revenue, employees, and then contact information. There's also a link here that can take you to company contacts. I'm actually going to show another place, though, where we can get company contacts. If we go back here to the search results and go to the Experian report, open that up, and wait for the internet again. You'll see here contact information again. In this case, their website is not here, but the website, just more information about the company. There's the phone number of the company again. In this case, they say there's 26 to 50 employees, so a lot of times, depending on which database and which competitive research company you use, you're going to get slightly varying numbers for the numbers of employees and the revenues. However, you're not going to find 12 employees and then find 1,200, you know, like these will tell you whether we're talking about a company that has a couple dozen employees or has a couple hundred employees or has a couple thousand. That's the level of specificity that you can get from some of these resources, but at least gives you a ballpark of how big they are. Here you can see the name of the CEO or president, Steve McGowan. Again, description a little bit. You got revenues here. You've got a lot of information, interesting information about their credit history too on Experience. So you can see how many times they were late with various accounts. So looking good on all these. A couple accounts here for just their payments in general. So trade payments look good, but some of their other bill payments have been behind a couple times. You'll notice here these are quarterly averages for their payment history. Looks like they've got some kind of a filing against them from 2013. Not quite sure what it is, but you could take this number and look it up. So it doesn't give you a ton of information, but it tells you a lot more than you used to know about sometimes really, really small competitors that you otherwise don't even know where their office is or how big they are or anything. So some good basic information. The second thing I wanted to go over is just doing a search on Google for more competitive information. So we just go to Google, and
So I'm going to cut us off here because this the last part of the webinar actually needs to be updated. What I just showed you with the minus sign worked better than that one did. So one other thing that I wanted to go over is, in addition to LexisNexis, there's another database that you can use to do the same kind of competitive research. So everything with we got a lot of great databases that we have access to here just because we're Cal State and we have like certain subscriptions that the university pays for, and one of them is that one that I showed you in the webinar, LexisNexis. Another one is so I forget, in this class, have I shown you guys at all like navigating the library databases? I don't think I have yet. I've done it in some of my other classes, but basically we're going to do some more of this in successive weeks as well. We've got some great databases that are subscriptions that we have here because you're at Cal State. So if you just go to the CSUB homepage and go down to the bottom of the page here, there's a little link that says library. Click on that link, and then right in the middle of the page, click on articles and databases. And this gives you access to all the databases. The easiest way to search for them, in my opinion, is up here in the upper right-hand corner, research databases by title. That'll give them to you all alphabetically. And in addition to LexisNexis, there's ProQuest. And if you go into ProQuest, it's a great, great search engine. If we type the same thing in quotes, steak and grape, and hit enter, or hit search, it brings up a bunch of different things. If we just want, like you'll see here, there's news reports about various things, some of which are actually not the Steak and Grape restaurant here in Bakersfield that we're looking for. If you go into the left-hand side here for source type, and you click on more options, this gives you all the different sources that are possible. If you just click reports and nothing else and click apply, that'll just give us the Experian credit report. So the way that search turned out wasn't that big of a deal because the Experian credit report was the first search result anyway. But if you've got a bunch of search results, many of which are news stories or are not what you're looking for, if you just go to the left-hand side of the screen and select reports, that'll just give you reports. And one of the reports that's a standard part of this subscription in this database is Experian. So you guys all know what Experian is, right? It's one of the 3 major credit reporting bureaus. And amazingly, you can find out a lot of stuff about like businesses' credit history by looking at this database. So again, this is the same information basically that you got in LexisNexis. It's just in a slightly different format. So address, contact information, the name of the owner, Steve McGowan. That is the name of the owner as well. I remember from doing a project with them as well. Annual revenues, employee size range. So, you know, one of them said 12, one of them said, I think 25 to 50, and this one says 20 to 49. So we basically know that they got more than 10 and less than 50 employees. We don't know exactly where it is, but we know they don't have 100 or 200 or 500. And we know that their revenues are somewhere in, you know, somewhere over $1 million and less than $5 million. And you'll also see down here some of the same things about their credit history. So their highest credit amount that they've been offered, the fact that they're a medium risk, so they're actually not the best credit in the world. They've got some elements that are okay, but some elements that are not. So otherwise, the Steak and Grape is a single restaurant owned by a single owner in Bakersfield, California. They don't have to disclose anything to anyone about any of their activities, so it's very hard to find useful information about companies that are that small and private. So great resource being able to go into either LexisNexis or ProQuest and find this information. One other thing that I wanted to go over, and that's pretty much it for competition for today, market positioning maps. And this should be pretty familiar from, let me just check and make sure our visitor isn't here yet. Nope, I don't see her. This should be familiar to you from marketing classes, but in addition to the profile that is standard to write up about competitors, even though this is a pretty basic, oh look, only one of these is mine. I don't know which one I stole, and I don't know where I stole it from. I think I took it from here before, but I can't remember. I got a class in here earlier in the day too. So the idea of market positioning maps is that you've got an x-axis and a y-axis, and you're comparing different companies on different criteria. So you want to have price and quality if these are some common areas. So price and quality, products. Hey, there you are. I've got 2 minutes and I'll be done. These are the various standard criteria. There are many others that you can choose from. But the main point here is, first of all, to have information that's not obvious. So if we put price here and quality here, what normally happens as quality goes up? Price goes up. So pretty much anybody that's ever mapped on here is going to be somewhere on that line. It doesn't tell me anything I didn't already know. But if we take price and quality and we put them on the same axis, and then we look at something else like maybe resource basis or product selection. Let's look at product selection. And then we're comparing Coconut Joe's and Steak and Grape. If we look at something like Food Focus, fish, steak, I believe Coconut Joe's and I believe the Steak and Grape is actually slightly higher on price, and they're focused here in the steak area. Coconut Joe. Hey, how many people here have been to Coconut Joe's? Okay, a few. It's a fish place in general. So Coconut Joe's going to be somewhere like that. If they both were steak restaurants and they both were the same price, then you would end up having a map that looks like this, which also doesn't tell me anything useful. So the main thing about competitor market positioning maps is, first of all, It needs to be non-obvious information. Second of all, it needs to actually differentiate the companies from each other. So you can see here, this is an example from that same property management company that I mentioned from University of Cincinnati a couple years ago. And then the last thing, it's important to describe what exactly you meant by each of the axes and why you put the companies where you did. It may seem obvious to you, but if it's just a graphic, it's very hard for me or any investor or anybody else that's looking at it to understand what you were thinking when you came up with the map. So very important as well, whether it's bullet points at the bottom or whether it's a separate page, and the next page has a description of, price quality. This is what price quality means. This is why we put Coconut Joe's where we did, and this is why we put Steak and Grape where we did, and then the same thing for, I guess we can call this food type. And some explanation there. Important to have that explanation, otherwise your viewer or the reader of the document is not necessarily going to know what you were thinking. That's pretty much all I had to cover about competition. The most important thing for the toolbox or skill set in this class is how to use LexisNexis and ProQuest, as well as doing Google searches, to find hard to find information about competitors. Okay, so most everything else is not necessarily. Yeah, hang on one second. Most everything else is not necessarily core relevant for this class. The one skill set that I do want you to take away from here is how to find sort of needle in a haystack information about competitors. Yes, Daniel.
Do we still have access to those tools like LexisNexis after we graduate? As long as we have a student account, or how does that work?
You should.
Because I know afterwards you need to pay.
You should. I know for sure that you can use it if you come into the library in person. Like as an alum, you can always use it there. Whether you can use it remotely when you're not on campus, I am not sure. Make sense?
Yeah.
But you can always come in and use it on campus as an alum.
Gotcha.
Okay, so that was pretty much all I wanted to go over. I'm going to give some marching orders, as it were, to the groups who are not the Edible Garden, and then I'm going to let Jennifer here talk a little bit with the Edible Garden folks. So, Shout. Shout, I think, is moving along pretty well with what Stephen has planned right now. I need to get back to you. The next step for me is to get back to you with some feedback on the brochure. The biggest thing that I think would help Shout is to go in, like I said before, to go into LinkedIn and search for contacts that are at the bureaucratic agencies that are responsible for issuing the licenses you guys need, and just figure out who they are. Make a list of all of the people that are either a second or a third degree contact. Send me the list of those names, and then I can go in and see who knows whom and make some introductions so you guys can start talking with them. I think that's the most important, helpful thing you could do for Shout right now. Potty Boss, we need to finish the web materials basically, and in order to do that, I was just starting while the webinar was going on to put together a Google Drive folder with a bunch of images and so forth that you can use for the Facebook page, so forth and so on. So I need to get back to you with some feedback on the various, the website and Indiegogo and so forth, but next step is just to have all those materials ready, and then to have, like we talked about, some quotes on how we're going to get the rest of the stuff sourced. So that's the next step for you guys. Yolanda, I basically owe you some feedback on your webpage. You're good for now. You and your Melissa, right?
Yeah.
Yes. I knew I wanted to say Maria, and I knew it wasn't right. You and Melissa, just hang tight. I'll send you some feedback, and that's next steps. Condors team. So I sent all of you an email with an attached document with a brochure. I need you to go into other materials I've sent you about what the various promotions are and list those promotions with some pictures next to them. Like, I'm sure if you go to the Condors website, you can find a picture to download of the Kid Zone. Give me a list of the promotions and features and pictures next to them, and then put my contact information at the bottom. As soon as you are done with that, send me a copy of that brochure so I can bless it, and then we'll have the Condors make copies of that, and we can go out, divide up posters and flyers among you guys, and get those out in the next week or two. That's the next step for the Condors project. Everybody who is not Edible Garden, you are free to go.
Is it half your classes garden?
Yep.
Almost? Yeah?
This entire side of the room.
Okay. Okay. My name's Jennifer. Hi. Jennifer Sanchez. I am the new sustainability coordinator for CSUB. I work out of the president's office, and I had the privilege of collaborating with your professor last quarter when we were still on quarters. And then my history with the garden goes back to like a year and